intentionally mean to do so.
Yeah. And most of it was the
relationships with clients.
Yes.
No.
Right.
Once a client, always a client.
Right.
I'm telling you, it's the cleanest way. Yeah, I know the board says 5 years. I know I think one says 3 years. Just say no.
But when you're talking about a relationship, you're talking about a sexual relationship.
I'm talking about an intimate relationship. Yeah.
And friendship too, right?
Well, I mean, I think it depends. I think you're going to have to decide. For me, it's no relationship. For some individuals, it is, you know, they're okay if they go to a wedding. They're okay if they go to a graduation. I buy a card and say congratulations. I'm not going. That's what works for me. Some people are okay with that. It just makes it cleaner for me. But yeah, absolutely not a intimate relationship. Yeah, you're responsible for their care and welfare. And, you know, crossing that boundary just really, really puts the client in a bad space. You know, you should never really, you know, you're hurting them. That can be hurtful.
You know, on the other side of that coin, I think I've seen counselors that take it to an extreme in that because they think, okay, what's best for the client, but they see the boundary as like steadfast and black and white, that they actually are more concerned about hurting themselves, and they actually withhold from the client perhaps things that the client needs and actually harm them because they want to protect themselves. But it's also personal. Because clients, especially our clients, they need the human touch.
They do.
Many counselors will say, I will never touch them.
That's true.
And they see that as professional.
Yes.
Now you could have both sides of an argument that says, well, are you really thinking about what's best for the client or what's best for you? Because God forbid somebody accuses you of something, so you want to be on the safe side. So, but what you do is withhold from the client what they really need.
I agree with you 100%, Bill. I think it just depends on the person. You know, do you give side hugs? Do you give full hugs? Do you ask the client first before you touch them? You know, what's comfortable for them? And then what's comfortable for you?
Exactly.
But I think you have to figure out how to find that balance so that you give them what they need.
And especially if you're unsure yourself.
Yes.
Then it's best to not go there. If you are sure, if you know exactly where your boundaries are, and you can sense when it's not going right, then you know, then you can work within that.
Absolutely.
But for those
and I do give side hugs. I'm okay with side hugs. You know, so so I think you're right. I think it's what's comfortable for you. Sharon?
I give side hugs too, but it also depends on how long I've known the person. And whether or not I feel safe to do that. You know what I mean? There are people who are too rigid, and then they really should question if they're in the right field.
I agree.
You know, when I was in corrections, I have to go back to that. I had an open door policy. When I first went to go over a unit, the social worker they had before me she was really in the wrong field. And when I first came in and the boys would come onto the unit, they were scared to come in because that's how she was. And it took some time to break that type of mindset in them because they needed help. They needed the interaction. They needed to feel as though this is someone that I can go to and talk to, you know. And but it took some time for that. So, like you said earlier about cultures, some cultures are huggers, some are and then some are not, you know. And so just knowing and understanding that and being open to ask those questions when we don't know. You know,
that's the key piece. Asking the questions when you don't know. You know, don't expect people to look you in the eye because sometimes it's part of their culture they don't do that. They don't have direct eye contact with people. It's so seen as disrespectful. You know, so you're right. Ask the questions. You know, when you go to someone's house and You know, you've been there before, so you know there might be some critters. You know, you don't be standoffish, but you leave your purse in the trunk. You wear clothes that you're okay with. You know, if they only have boxes to sit on, you sit on the box. And then when you leave and when you go home, you take your clothes off before you go in your house. You throw them in the wash or whatever it is you need to do. But while you're with that client, you have to be in a place to be able to meet them where they are. You have to. It is critically important. And so whatever you believe, whatever you feel, you have to leave that stuff at the door.
Leave it out. Yes, ma'am.
You have to leave it at the door. You know, if they yell and scream at each other, but they're communicating, and that's the way they show love, that's their way.
I have to, I'm chuckling because I have some people like that, a son and mother. And he has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, and she has her own issues. They yell and scream all the time. But when she went in the hospital, he was lost without her. And they moved into a new home that I call it a dollhouse. It's not. I think this room is bigger than where they live, and they sleep in the same bed. And to me, I'm thinking, what? But that's them.
Right.
She sleeps over here, he sleeps over there, because they have to. You know. And hey, I meet them where they are. Some places, you're right. I'm just bearing witness to what you're saying. It's filthy. It's not my standard of living, but that's theirs. And I meet. I don't judge them. I don't even take a valise in. You know, because anything can crawl in anything. You know. And so the smell sometimes is so horrendous, it will just knock you out. But you know, you put Vicks right here and you go in, you know, and you don't smell it. You know?
But it's true. I mean, because I had a parent and a child, all they did was yell. But you said, why are you arguing? We're not arguing, we're just talking. So, you know, you have to really kind of ask them and get to know who they are. You know, if you see pictures on the counter, ask, you know, is this your family member? Where are you from? Tell me a little bit more about yourself. Tell me a little bit more about your culture. One of the things I learned the hard way is that because I am an African-American woman does not mean that I can relate to every African-American. It is crucial that we understand who we are. That is just simply not true. So we need to I mean, I've had some individuals who I've had to say, you know what, this person really makes me nervous or uncomfortable, so can you come here with me? And I watched my colleague work because it just wasn't working for me. And I knew it was my stuff. So I had to be okay with my stuff and watch them interact, and it was seamless for them, which taught me something about myself and about the person who was sitting in front of me. That they really weren't as, you know, anxious or nervous or shouldn't have made me so uncomfortable because they were just things that they were dealing with. You know, so I think it's important. We do a great work. We just have to take care of ourselves because it's critically important. Because it's a hard job. And a lot of people don't see it that way, but it's very difficult to deal with people's stuff all the time and help them get to the next place where they can return to healthy wellness, you know.
Well, and if we're not aware of our stuff, we've been doing interviews this past week, as you know, and it's so interesting to hear people actually say, I have no biases, none, in a confident tone. I mean, we're even taught that in school. Everybody knows there are biases, but to be cocksure that I don't have any biases at all, or to have somebody admit that they've never been attracted to a client. If I've heard that once, I've heard it 10 times in interviews. Have you ever been attracted to a client? No, I would never be attracted to a client, as if it's a choice. It's so weird.
Yes, it's very weird.
To be able to know your stuff, that you're human. I mean, how important is that?
I think it's
the good and the bad.
Critically important.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, because if any one of us thinks that we don't have any biases,
then that's a bias.
That is truly a bias. Truly a bias. Yeah. One of the things that I do with the classes that I teach is I actually make them do an exercise where they have to look at these different scenarios to talk about what their biases are. Yeah, and so then they have to rate them, and then the ones that they feel like is a section where it says somebody who you would never work with, and then they have to talk about that and share that as to why they would never work with that person and what would you do. So if somebody presents to you and they need help and they have something that is truly a bias for you, what do? You could refer them out, absolutely.
And, you know, and be honest with them, you know.
Be honest with them.
There's nothing wrong with
Absolutely.
that.
And if you find that you can't work with very many people, then you really need to look at getting some counseling for
You need to
yourself.
refer yourself out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to refer yourself out. So you know, some great stuff. But this is what it is, and I think this is how we continue to improve as clinicians, by taking the time to kind of talk about it and share it with others. Awesome. Great.